Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show here in Oakland, and joined today by a legendary Bay Area guitarist and a guy who can play all different styles of music, Ray Obiedo. Welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show. How are you,
Thanks
brother?
for having me, yeah.
You know, I wanted to ask you about growing up, the kind of rhythm. Did you learn rhythm before you learned? I know you claim you don't improvise that well, but how did you learn rhythm on the bandstand?
Not that I don't improvise, I'd rather not.
Right, but I'm saying, did your rhythm chops come before you learned to improvise?
Actually, I played drums from the 7th grade on up till 11th grade, and I literally played, top 40 funk bands, And I went to see Cream with Eric Clapton, Ginger Baker, at the Winterland. And I was really impressed with Eric Clapton's red Gibson guitar, his SG Standard. And took the drum set the next day with my mom to downtown Oakland and dropped it off and got an SG Standard just like Eric Clapton's and started playing guitar then. But I think for the most part I always played kind of top 40, especially like in Richmond we played with a lot of doo-wop groups, singing groups and the like. So I always learned the latest top 40 tunes, you know, Temptations, Supremes and things like that. So obviously there's a lot of rhythm in that music, but what's really cool about Motown music, there's a lot of great chord changes. It's not just vamp the key of E. There's really sophisticated chord changes. So that was, you know, that's kind of like my jazz standards, you know.
Did you? Would you say that you played? Could you talk to the audience? I mean, I'm less familiar with Martinez. Were you on the Chitlin circuit there? Like James?
Well, it was Richmond, not Martinez.
I'm sorry, Richmond. but I mean James Brown and the Flames and Johnny Talbot and the Fangs and all those cats used to come through there.
I know Johnny very well.
So did you? When did you first get on the bandstand with those cats?
Well, actually, I started playing like more of a rock. We tried to
Cream,
emulate
clearly.
Cream and you know Hendrix and all that stuff. But for the most part, I really started working when I started playing like you say the Chitlin circuit, you know, R&B groups, and that was like immediately, you know, right out of high school.
Can you talk about that circuit? What was that circuit
Well,
like?
we played a lot of clubs.
People want to see your talk. Don't put your hand in front of your mouth.
Okay, like this.
You're up. You're under arrest.
We played army bases.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot of them. A lot of clubs. Clubs. Sometimes we wouldn't start till midnight and play till 6 in the morning. A place called the Ghetto Club on Mission in San Francisco.
Oh dear. And
We step out of the Ghetto Club and right across the street there was a great donut. You'd smell these donuts and that we'd head straight over there at 6:30 in the morning and a couple donuts and chocolate milk and then we'd go home ready to hit the hay. You know.
People were going to church. You'd be going to bed.
Oh yeah. So that was a group that was with called the Electric Church. It was a little funky group.
Who was in that band? I seem to know that band.
You know, I don't think anyone you know really.
Well, but Buddy Miles had an album called.
Oh no, his was the Electric Flag. This was the Electric Church.
I'm saying as no, I dig, but okay. Anyway, continue.
Yeah.
So that, but I guess what I'm trying to get at is that my generation, as a Gen Xer and younger, because of the academy now is where music is being taught. A lot of cats learn to or try to learn to improvise, so they wind up with huge facility, but no rhythm. Okay, and I maintain that you can develop an individual sound on your guitar when you play improvisationally if your rhythm chops are together.
Well, I think rhythm is ultra important for me, and I know that I learned growing up in actually listening. Actually, when I was playing drums, I was listening to a lot of James Brown stuff,
Syncopated stuff.
10th grade, 11th grade. I remember we'd have on Fridays the students would bring their favorite music in, and in my Richmond, California, I grew up. It was 80% African American, and the music they brought in was James Brown, Motown stuff. So that's what I gravitated to because that's what I loved. I just loved that music. So I really concentrated on the rhythm. I think it's very important because you're playing rhythm a very great percentage of the time, in any band. And I remember there's an article. The guitar player, I forgot his name. You might remember his name. He's the guitar player in Toto.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the back page, and a young guitarist asked, "I want to be able to solo like you, dude. What do you suggest I do?" And he says, "For 1 year, you want to be a better soloist? For 1 year, just play rhythm.
See?
Don't solo. Don't even attempt a melody." And then he said, "Then you'll be a better soloist." And I think it's true. You know?
Why do you explain to the worldwide audience why it's true?
Well, I think if you're playing rhythm, you're accompanying, you're playing within the rhythm section. You're hearing as opposed to anticipating your next solo. You're not really concentrating on. Well, I concentrate on the rhythm section even when I'm soloing, but I think it's very important just the rhythm. You know, I really love the 2 or 3 guitar players that were in the James Brown's group. Just the stuff they came up with was just so hip today. I mean, stuff that was recorded in the 60s. What the heck are these guys playing? It's just kind of bizarre, you know, very unusual rhythms. Then I ended up playing with Pee Wee Ellis a few years ago. Wow. And on that gig was Fred Wesley.
Dear friend of the program, yeah.
Yeah, and then, so we're playing all these James Brown things, and for the most part, I thought I had the stuff down, you know. But Pee Wee would correct you. He says, it's an E flat, not an E. What are you doing there, you know? And Fred Wesley was the same thing. And then a couple years ago, we did a tour. It was, believe it or not, it was called an African tribute to James Brown. And half the rhythm section, most of the rhythm section was not black. But up front was Pee Wee Ellis and Maceo Parker. And just listen to Maceo play. I mean, he doesn't play a heck of a lot of notes. But the notes that he does play is just super important, rhythmically as can be. It's just, it's like a drummer taking a great solo every time he plays, you know, his part. So it's just ultra important. I love doing that even in Latin, you know, playing with Roger. I mean, I play, you know, what do you do in, what is a guitar player's part in Latin jazz, you know? I mean, I understand you play melodies, you solo, but rhythmically, you know, what do you do? So I kind of pretend I'm another percussionist in the band, you know?
Do you feel fortunate that you came up, at least early on, at a time when you mentioned being blown away by Cream, but
Yeah.
the guitar at that time, when you saw that was a lead improvisational instrument.
Sure,
but when you were first coming up, the saxophone was the lead improvisational instrument. Guitar was a strumming instrument. So going back to, like, you know, Freddie Green and you know, and that locked the rhythm section in, but the guitar was not. It was a rhythm instrument. I mean, that's really what it was when you were first starting to hit the circuit.
Sure. Well, especially listening to so much Motown stuff and listen to what complex lines these guys were playing, and the bass player James Jammers was crazy stuff that he was playing. I mean, he's playing so much lines, and it just it sounds like his improviser is really hitting. It's very solid. But I think I guess the jazz guitarist that I just fell in love with, and I like the I know he could play his butt off, he could swing his ass off, but it was Wes Montgomery when he was doing those very kind of very melodic, you know, back here on the ground, very nice.
Down here on the ground.
Down here on the ground, very very hummable
Yeah,
solos.
yeah, dig.
As opposed to his early stuff when he's just bopping away, which is fantastic too. But just the tone of his guitar is still, even to this day, I record a lot of, on my records, I use a lot of the octave sound that he does. I just love that. So. But, and then I got into the Latin jazz thing with Pete Escovedo, and that's another beast. You know.
Oh, I've been looking for. He's down in L.A., I guess now.
He's down in Los Angeles.
I'm trying to find that cat. He's the elder statesman.
Yeah. Well, he's easy to find.
Is he really easy? Because I've been
Oh,
having a hard time. I got to get a hold of him.
Sure.
When you played with Pete, were you playing with a trap set, or was it only timbal?
It was a trap set. I'm still playing with Pete. We actually have a thing coming up January 12th called the Pete Escovedo Ray Obiedo Latin Jazz Ensemble, featuring former lead singer Tony Lindsay from Santana.
Absolutely,
I mean, it's a long title, but this is what the promoter wanted. But that's a small band with just a couple singers, small rhythm section, and Pete plays timbales, and we have a conga player, and it's Latin jazz, but we do it not as conventionally. It's, you know, funk-oriented stuff, you know. And Pete's cool with that. Pete, the one thing about Pete is I've been playing with him since '75. When Sheila E. or Sheila Escovedo, she was, I think, 19, something like that. And what was interesting about Pete, and a bass player friend of mine, Mark Van Wagenen, pointed it out to him, says, Pete actually just lets you do what you want.
I love it.
You know? I mean, there's certain tunes that we play, and we kind of lock into, if it was recorded a certain way, That's the way we play it. There's 2 or 3 tunes always in a set. We just improvise. It's crazy. Sometimes the whole band will leave the stage, except for the drummer, the bass player, and myself. And we're grooving just like Roger and I were just grooving. 2 or 3 minutes, and Pete will leave the stage and let us do it. A trio on stage doing this. And what Latin jazz leader will let you do that? You know, this is his baby, but he lets it be our baby for a few minutes on every gig. It's really cool. He's just real open. He never complains. He never tells us what to play. We just fall in, you know, because he's loose in some regard. But when you have to play the arrangements, you know, you have to lock into the very traditional Latin jazz arrangements, and that's what we do. It's really fun playing with Pete, you know.
Well,
as Roger knows.
I'm just gonna, you know, a lot of people in the audience are asking, could you guys play another tune?
What people are asking, I want to know their names.
Well, we have a lot of people tuning in over there. Dennis Coffey's tuning in right now.
There you go.
Yeah, all right. But yeah,
You want to play, Raj?
be fearless. Go places.
Let's do one of your originals, man.
Like what? Where's Mike? Okay.
What did you say, La Samba? Or
We
you
already
wanna
did that.
do,
You don't remember?
no, we didn't do that.
Yes, we did.
We were just
our first-
jamming.
That was our first tune.
He's just, dude, you were on fire
It'll
with that
be
shaker
fine,
too.
Roger. It'll be fine.
Call it.
Okay. I don't know. Picadillo or something, you know.
How about something from Salsa de Berkeley?
Sabor?
Okay.
I don't know. This is an old standard tune. Roger probably could describe it better than I can.
You want to talk about it, Roger?
What, Savor?
Picadillo, Philadelphia, you know.
Philadelphia.
Ray Obiedo, Roger Glenn, shaman musicians here on the Jake Feinberg Show.
Picadillo.
Sabor. You don't know it?
Savor. Oh, okay. Good.
Here we go. Round it out.
Go ahead.
Oh, it sounds great. Ray Obiedo and Roger Glenn. You know, can you talk about? I had a chance to hang with Bill Summers down in New Orleans now, and talked a lot about diaspora. But when did you first cross paths with Bill? Were you with him in that band Batakoto?
No, I started with him in a band called, it was Bill Summers and Summers Heat. It was 76, 77, I believe. I can't remember his first time. 77?
Album. Yeah.
A little bit after that, we did 4 or 5 CDs, actually.
Fantasy.
LPs, Fantasy. And he started heading, we did a lot of, it was crossover. Some Herbie-like stuff, some funk, some ballads. It was just a lot of stuff, a lot of good variety of music. And toured, did some nice little tours with Bill. Great, absolutely fantastic band.
What how do you feel are the lineage of your people's music and the music of diaspora is today? I just wonder about whether cats go back far enough in the lineage of music today, especially with the vocabulary. Not so much the book history of it, but I'd like you to riff on it, especially because you grew up in Richmond, and it was a melting pot of.
Well, certainly the Bay Area, Berkeley. I actually used to check out a group called the Sons of Champlain.
Are you kidding me? Terry Haggerty's tuning in right now.
Oh, and that was my favorite.
Bill Champlain, dude, those guys are freaking great, man. Actually, I just interviewed John Allaire, who used to play dance in San Rafael, who was playing sock hops, and Champlain and Haggerty were going to see him when they were in high school. Mm-hmm. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we'd do the same. We'd hitchhike and we'd stay overnight in a park in Marin to be the first in line when they played.
I love it.
And I really loved that group because it was rock, funk, a little R&B, but then they had the jazz element with the great vibe player, and it was. No other group was doing this. And they played the Fillmore, Avalon, Winterland, and that was that opened all of the musicians I was hanging out with to different kinds of music. It wasn't just Jefferson Starship or the Grateful Dead. There's something a little more interesting.
Well, maybe because they were actually musicians.
Yeah, and of course,
they weren't folkies learning to play. It
was funky. It
was
soulful.
Was that? That Palmer, Jeffrey Palmer played
Jeffrey
vibes.
Palmer,
that was the vibes player.
Yeah.
So
but,
was this? It was.
That's my Marin connection. And over here, if you're in the Bay, in the Berkeley, there was, like you said, Salsa Berkeley.
You were in that band.
I wasn't in the band, but I played a lot with these guys.
You did, right? Because when I interviewed Morgan, that band had no. Let's see. It was timbal.
Conga, timbale. They might have had a drum set. I think John Otis might have played some.
But there was no piano.
No piano. They had
no horns. And steel drum.
Well, it was
Andy Norell was playing steel.
Jeff and Andy both played, or Scotty Roberts sometimes played.
Mark Baum on bone
sax
or on sax, and Armando Peraza used to come sit in with you guys in the quad once in a while.
And also trombone player. What's his name? Plays with Harlem Orchestra. Dan Regan. Very good.
Oh, Dan, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a great band.
But as far as the roots and the lineage...
Well, what I'm saying, my roots are just whatever's in the Bay Area, Obviously, I had brothers that played music, and they listened to Tito Puente, Perez Prado, but it's a hybrid, I don't do anything authentically. Sometimes I try, but if I'm playing with someone like a John Santos or John Calloway, they might go, oh, yeah, clave is a little backwards. Like, look, I don't know, I'm from the Bay Area. I'm not trying to be like a Cuban musician or play salsa from New York. I incorporate my R&B roots, R&B knowledge with the roots music that I know the cats that are playing here. Pete Escovedo doesn't play very traditionally either. The way Sheila plays, the way her brother Peter Michael plays or pops, it's not traditional. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah.
It's just so. But we're not playing. I don't feel like we're playing incorrectly. We're still playing within the clave. We're just creating our own. And I like to bring a lot of the James Brown rhythm guitar elements into it. I think it's important. So.
I completely dig. Did you play Caesars? Roger.
He played a hell of a lot. I played there a few times. I actually played bass at the original Caesars.
You played bass at the original
Only
Caesars?
for a few months, and I
North
remember
Beach.
Mongo Santa. I mean, not Mongo. Mingo Lewis was there,
Oh yeah,
and Francisco.
yeah.
Mingo was there.
And Mingo was playing timbales, and I was playing bass. It was kind of a fluke, but actually, I was so nervous about this because Francisco. But he actually embraced me and just kind of helped me in a few things. He said, "Listen, this is the music to listen to. Check this out." And I did. I went home and I went back and did my homework just to learn a little. But
As I said the other day,
Yeah.
you know, Caesars. The thing about Caesars was that everybody of musical genius in the Bay Area had played at Caesars one time or another. You know, and you know, maybe that wasn't the hit of Caesar's band, but you know, these people brought you know, the groups that they worked with. You know, you mentioned Mingo, you mentioned Raul Rico also was playing congas there. You know, what's the name with Timbales, who used to play with Santana, the original group, Chapito. You know,
Oh,
you know,
Chapito,
all these great musicians. So you know, Ray, it's a long list that, you know, we're living in the Bay Area. You know, sooner or later you were going to be there, from Mel Martin to Hadley Calaman. You know, all these greats.
Martin Fierro.
oh yeah.
You know, but it warms my heart because another cat who's tuning in right now is a dear friend of mine, and I never got to see him play live, but Julian Priester.
Oh, Julian.
And the Marine Intrusion album is still to this day one of my favorite.
And we used to play at Caesars.
Julian played Bone at Caesars.
Yeah.
But when, like, those albums are, that's some of the hippest music that stands the test of time today. Ron Stallings was on that album.
Yeah,
Can you talk about how you connected with Julian?
I'm not sure how I connected. Maybe Ron Stallings brought me into the picture, but it was.
You knew Ron.
Oh yeah, very well.
So
Very
talk
well.
about Ron. He's deep in my soul, man.
Oh man, he was one of the best, man. One of the greatest players. One of the just wonderful person. Went on the road with him a lot. Went to Europe a lot with him. But the first trip to Europe was with Julian Priester and Ron Stallings, Augusta Lee Collins, Hashima Mark Williams, and who else? I guess that was it. And we played mostly Germany. You know, I think maybe played France, Paris. But we did an album for ECM, which was crazy.
Yeah, Marine Intrusion.
Yeah,
It's
Marine
the
Intrusion.
most tripped out album I've ever heard
Yeah,
in
it
my
was
life,
crazy.
dude. You're playing on that is just angular.
Oh,
It's
God.
unbelievable.
Thank you.
You know, but you know, at the end, you know, Ray, in your mind, you still play quite a few live gigs. How has the significance of music changed in our culture, especially as it relates to the list, as it relates to the patrons that are coming, their intentions for coming to the music? How has that changed?
You know, well, one thing I'm very impressed with the new crop of new musicians like Snarky Puppy and
Yeah.
Lewis Cole. I mean, this stuff is really pretty funky. It's it's amazing. It's very complicated. I really dig that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I'm really open to it, and I know a lot of guys aren't. You know, like, oh man, you know, it's just, yeah, what are these kids doing today? I mean, you know, they're playing their asses off is what they're doing today. You know, dirty loops. You know, but I went to see last year. I went to see Steve Gadd and Jimmy Johnson, and you know, and that's a little different. I relate to it still because I'm more from that school.
Now, but what was it about? Was it just not as, it was not as, I have to say, I mean, it's not as much of a formula trip with Steve. It's a little bit more, you know, sort of off the cuff kind of?
No. I mean, they're playing a little more inside. You know, great solos, obviously, but you know, the grooves are simpler, but still very melodic.
Right.
And, you know, I love the way Steve Gadd plays. You know, I went to a drum. It's a PAS. It's a drum convention, and night one, Terry Bozzio did a drum clinic for an hour and played like crazy. The next day was Steve Gadd. And Steve Gadd came, he was going to play for an hour, and he says, you know, all these phenomenal drummers are just kicking ass. I'm not going to solo, I'm just going to play grooves.
I dig.
For an hour, he just went, boom, pow, boom, pow. He didn't even do a fill, for God's sake. And that was the best thing ever, just to have all these young kids in the audience just listen to this guy groove, just play time.
In the pocket.
That's all.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
And never repeating any of the.
No, and they did different tempos, obviously. And then
Sure.
Luis Conti and Alex Acuna came up and played, and he says, "No soloing, guys, just groove," and they just played time.
That's the best hour of your life. That was
it was
unreal,
great. I'm
man.
telling you, people. In fact, you didn't want anyone to solo. You just loved the group. It was hypnotic. It was beautiful. So.
You who was the cat that you played with that had where the beat fell in the strangest places, but they had impeccable time?
I'm not talking about Dave Garibaldi.
I'm just saying who when you know what it is. A lot of people talk about like Jack Wilkins, a great guitar player from the East Coast. He talks about transcribing or trying to figure out McLaughlin. Again, this is for guitar players, but McLaughlin, Demiola, the beat falls in the weirdest places, but they have impeccable time.
Yeah, well, Garibaldi.
Garibaldi. Now, but I see this beautiful poster over here.
Oh yeah, that's.
Talk about what Garibaldi did that made it where.
Well, what he does now, he's still with Tower Power.
Sure.
I mean, he's just how his syncopation is just great. Where he places his one and his kick drum patterns. I mean, I learned a lot from him, and a lot of my rhythm is based off what Tower did in the early days. With Bruce Conti and Rocco. I mean, it's crazy.
Eddie Fulton.
Eddie Fulton. Yeah, he was the first guitar player.
Specifically with
Garibaldi. I did it's called a Tower Groove. It was Garibaldi's instructional video. It was Benny Rietveld, who plays with Santana now, Peter Horvath, Norbert Stachel, Michael Spiro, who's going to be here later today. And just hearing these grooves, man, and what he comes up with is just really phenomenal. And a lot of drummers just didn't do that. I mean, there was Zigaboo, who played that stuff,
And that's more New Orleans second line.
Where he syncopated, where he put the snare, his hi-hat pattern, and then... and it's like a Bay Area thing. There's Mike Clark, of course, too, which I've been doing some gigs with lately.
You've been gigging with Mike?
With him, and Linda Tillery, and Will Blades.
I dig. Yeah.
And man, I mean, Mike Clark's, he's, for the most part, in New York, he's kind of straight-ahead jazz player for the most part. In fact, he just played with Mike Wolf. And
yeah, well, he's, I always, straight ahead to me, it's like when you're playing with Donald Harrison or Eddie Henderson or Roger Glenn or Ray Obiedo, it's always about spiritual burning music. Straight ahead doesn't do justice to it.
Okay.
When did you first see Roger play? Or were you on the bandstand with him the first time you met him?
It was with the Pete Escovedo.
Yeah.
I remember he came in with a big Mexican sarape, or was it an African dashiki? It was one of those.
He loves the outfits, man. He loves the outfits.
That's what it was. We could call him Viva Sarape.
Sarape.
That was probably 76, 75, 76.
Yeah, something around there, yeah.
And we played in Pete's group. It's called Azteca. And I think Sheila was 19 years old playing conch. Gaylord Birch, I believe, a phenomenal drummer.
That's what I was curious about.
Also, the Roger Glenn's Latin salsa band.
Oh, yeah.
Ray and Sheila.
Pablo Tellez on bass. Yeah. We played every week. At a
my
great
first
club.
Recording was Ray's first. I think that was your first recording. Also, he started his own publishing from that and stuff. Yeah, with the Reaching album.
Yeah, that was. I didn't even know what the hell I was doing that day. I remember going into Fantasy and pulling my amp in. I'm pretty sure it was on your session. I sat there in the lobby with my amp and guitar, not knowing what the hell to do, and they had a banner hanging over their desk that said, "Congratulations to Saul Zaentz for the 4 Academy Awards for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest," right?
Yeah.
I said, this movie was produced here in this building, this little building, and it was great. But anyway.
Yeah, but your name is all over those sessions at Fantasy, too. I've seen you on a lot of different sessions.
I did a lot of stuff over there.
I just wonder about if you, just in general, with most of the stuff that you were doing, you were hitting live at Fantasy with the Cats?
Oh, it just depended on the sessions. I mean, I think my second session after Roger was Johnny Hammond Smith.
Right.
Yeah.
Storm Warning or something? Or?
Gears album.
Gears.
We did.
Were you on Gears?
Not Gears. It was Taurus Forever. Would have had
Taurus Forever. Yeah, Roger was on Gears. Roger dominated Gears. No, but I mean Don Randy, the piano player. today it's kind of humbling. You get a call to do a session. They say, yeah, come on in. They plug in your piano. He plays this thing. They said, thanks, that's great. You go home now. And that dude was part of the Wrecking Crew. I mean, he was in there.
But the way that we did albums and
Yeah.
we did Roger or Bill Summers or Pete Escobedo, we literally would all pile in the studio on a Monday or Tuesday.
Right.
And by Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they've already done the overdubs, background vocals come in, horn section. We're mixing now. You know, mixing in a week's time for the most part.
In the
it just doesn't happen now. I'm working on my new album now. It's been months. You know.
Right. Well, if you can talk to younger cats about the magic of being not on the bandstand, but in the studio live, and how it allows the music to breathe.
Well,
I realize there's a cost issue going on now, you know, with renting space and people want to do it out of their computers, but the sterility is at an all-time high. And so I'm just trying to get at the idea of hitting live in the studio.
Well, for the most part, it depends on the production because I've been producing a lot of singers and instrumentalists. And, you know, the cheapest way for them, the least expensive way, is just to go in for one afternoon or 2 afternoons in a row, and it's done. Literally. Side A and side B, so to speak. And then all you have to do is, like today when Michael Spiro comes, he's doing Brazilian overdubs on an album, a CD that we started at Fantasy Records 3 or 4 months ago. The track is completed except for the percussion. He could have been at the studio, but we choose to do it here. I could be a little more focused, a little more detail-oriented, and he does multiple tracks, congas, shakers, pandera, all kinds of... And you would be wasting time in the studio at $100 an hour to have a percussion. So it's easier to just do it here, and I like doing that, just again, attention to detail. But for the most part, I love just a full rhythm section, playing 2 or 3 takes, and the thing is done. The 90% of it is finished, you know.
Well, I mean, Woody Herman would bring his, and again, that's a little bit different than Summer's Heat, but they'd come in and be done in 3 hours.
Oh, sure.
Okay?
Oh, I know.
I mean, that to me is like, you're not wanking it for the 40th time on the same track.
But you know, you also have to remember that back in the day when, you know, Dexter Gordon or Freddie Hubbard or
Sonny,
they would play, they would be on the road for months.
right?
And then they go into the studio, and they're in New York. They go in the studio. They could do their whole set.
That's a very good point.
Done.
The tunes were live. They were ready to go.
They're ready to go.
I dig, man. That's a very good point.
I'm not ready to go because I've written a new tune, for instance. You can't teach them in the studio, and they're not. You can teach them in the studio, but they're not going to play it with any conviction, or you know, like they just don't know the tune well enough. That's all. But if Roger and I went in and we did the tunes that he's played, all my tunes he played, we'd nail it. All we were thinking about is just vibe and attitude, not learning the damn thing, you know.
Playing together all these years.
Yeah.
Playing live. So ultimately, you don't, I mean, and that's the thing today, there's some anonymity there where you're like, yeah, I'm going to get this cat, put a guitar solo in, and he'll email it to me, I can overdub it, and it just, the whole thing, I mean, bless you both. Before we wrap, I'm going to ask for...
We're going to wrap now. Oh.
Oh, we can keep going. I mean, we're having a
No,
ball.
I meant rap.
His name is Ray, and he's coming
Yeah,
to
see?
play.
Yeah, don't start him.
just finish with a Glenn Obiedo jam for the
Let's
audience.
play a little funky blues.
Yeah, a little funky blues.
Because I'm tired of the other stuff.
Such an honor, man. Ray, thank you so much for
Thank you,
All
man.
right, man.
Great.
Good hang.
And a shout out to Julian Priest. Julian,
Yeah, Pepo, what's up?
We'll catch you, man.
And how do you say, what's his flight?
Pepo.
Pepo. God, I love that cat.
He probably hasn't heard that in a while.
No, I talked to him about
Okay.
it. He was the cook
He's
for
up
those
in
guys.
Seattle, and I missed him when I played there with Taj. So hopefully I'll see you again next year when Taj does this annual thing, man, at the Jazz Alley.
Much love, man.
I wonder if he has that posted. Well, anyway.
And Marine Intrusion.
Okay.
Yep.
Your
What key?
call.
What's a good key?
Your call.
Give me a key.
F, whatever.
B flat, F.
E flat, B flat, whatever.
B flat. 1, 2.
This is the Jake Feinberg Show. We'll see you later.